In Singapore, every mistake comes with a price, either money or a lot of money. A fine of $1,000 and 10 hours of community service awaits if a camera catches you spitting out chewing gum on the street. $150 or up to $500 if you forget to flush after using the toilet. $300 if you are caught spitting in public. That is exactly what people refer to when they talk about Singapore, an island nation that says no to environmental pollution. If you've ever set foot in Singapore, you'd probably be amazed at how impeccably clean this country is. Not only in tourist attractions and shopping centers, but also on the streets, where everything is spotless, just like the floor of your home. Because of this, many people assume that Singapore has always been a clean country since its founding. However, that is far from the truth. When Singapore first separated from Malaysia, it was once referred to as a paradise, but ironically, it was a paradise of pollution. So, how did this island nation undergo such a transformation to become one of the most beautiful and cleanest countries in the world in such a short period? Without keeping you waiting any longer, let's explore the real story behind it. 50 years ago, what is now the cleanest country in the world was struggling with a severe lack of clean water. The rivers were heavily polluted, emitting foul odors and suffering from severe blockages. The main culprits were waste from shipyards, pig farms, and direct sewage disposal into the water streams, forcing Singapore to rely on imported clean water from its neighboring country, Malaysia, to supply its people. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Singapore underwent a rapid transformation in just 10 years. The person behind this ambitious cleanup effort was none other than the late Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew. At the time, his proposal to clean up Singapore was met with ridicule, with many believing he was overly ambitious. Not only did he aim to develop the country at lightning speed after gaining independence, but he also insisted that it must be the cleanest nation possible. Singapore was still a poor country at that time, and what he wanted to achieve seemed almost impossible. Yet, he remained resolute in carrying out his ambitious plan. Lee Kuan Yew started by tackling the most polluted rivers, Singapore River and Kallang Basin. The first step was installing an underground sewage system throughout the entire island. However, this was especially challenging since these areas were densely populated and already had existing infrastructure. Additionally, 3,000 small-scale manufacturing workshops were relocated, and 5,000 street food vendors were moved elsewhere. Workers living on barges and large boats had to relocate to Pasir Panjang on the western coast, while boats along the Kallang River were moved to Tuas and the Jurong River. Once public concerns were settled, the Singaporean government implemented decisive actions to rehabilitate the polluted water sources, starting with rainwater collection. However, given Singapore's shortage of natural resources and limited land area, the country adopted a policy of collect every drop and continuous reuse. Singapore collects rainwater through an 8,000 km long drainage network that channels it into reservoirs, while also reclaiming used water from a drainage system located 60 m underground. This approach allows Singapore to secure its water supply through a combination of imports, reservoirs, and seawater desalination. According to the Public Utilities Board, PUB, recycled wastewater currently meets 40% of Singapore's water demand. With the ambition of maintaining its status as the world's cleanest country, this figure is projected to rise to 55% by 2060. Beyond rainwater collection, Singapore introduced an innovative seawater filtration technology that mimics artificial kidneys to treat polluted water. In 2003, the New Water project was officially launched. The heart of this recycling system is the state-of-the-art Changi Water Reclamation Plant, located on the country's eastern coast. All the plant's buildings are located underground, some reaching depths of 25 stories. The facility houses an intricate system of steel pipes, reservoirs, filtration units, and other machinery capable of processing up to 900 million liters of wastewater per day, enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool every 24 hours for an entire year. In a building, a network of ventilation fans is installed to keep the air fresh. Wastewater that is transferred to the plant will undergo an initial filtration process before being pumped to surface facilities for further treatment. Here, the water is purified further, removing bacteria and viruses through advanced filtration and ultraviolet disinfection. New water is primarily used in semiconductor manufacturing plants, which are widespread across Singapore and require high water quality standards, as well as in cooling systems for buildings. In addition, new water is also stored for the dry season. During dry periods, new water is accumulated in some artificial reservoirs, and after undergoing further treatment, clean water is supplied to the public. True to its reputation as the world's cleanest country, Singapore continues to develop and implement cutting-edge environmental technologies. Currently, the Green City of Singapore is continuing to expand its water recycling system. Singapore plans to add an underground tunnel and a major water reclamation plant to serve the western half of the island. This project is expected to be completed by 2025. At the same time, Singapore will invest $7.4 billion to upgrade its water treatment infrastructure once this expansion project is finalized. That being said, despite the strong policies from the Singaporean government in the application of cutting-edge technology, without the united efforts of its citizens, all of this would have been in vain. This highlights the high awareness of environmental protection, public hygiene, and compliance with traffic laws among the people of this island nation. There is hardly a single piece of litter on the streets or sidewalks, and smoking in public areas is even more unthinkable. Vehicles on the roads maintain speeds of over 40 kilometers per h, yet they strictly adhere to traffic regulations. No lane encroachment, no illegal stopping, and absolutely no running red lights. Moreover, not a single honk can be heard. Singapore's government considers ecological protection a strategic priority in its socioeconomic development policies. Perhaps that is why Singapore is well known for its strict laws. In this country, you can be heavily fined for actions that might be considered completely normal elsewhere. For example, feeding pigeons in public comes with a $500 fine, while carrying cigarettes without authorization can cost you $3,500. Besides, the Singaporean government has recently introduced a regulation requiring citizens to clear their tables, dispose of trash, and return trays after dining at hawker centers. This rule is strictly monitored by local authorities. Those who intentionally refuse to comply will face consequences. First-time offenders will receive a warning, while a second offense will result in a $300 fine. For subsequent violations, the offender will be taken to court. It can be said that the Singaporean government is highly strategic in mobilizing a large workforce of ordinary citizens, known as ambassadors, such as social distancing ambassadors and tray return ambassadors, to collaborate with authorities in monitoring and reminding citizens to comply with newly implemented regulations. Beyond using technology to purify water, Singapore also applies technology to monitor public behavior through robots. The country gained global attention when it introduced Spot, the robotic dog, tasked with patrolling parks and reminding people to maintain social distance during the pandemic. A year later, the Lion City launched Xavier, also known as the police robot, responsible for detecting regulation violations such as gathering in groups of more than 5 for dining, failing to clean tables, smoking in restricted areas, improper bicycle parking, and using personal vehicles or motorcycles in pedestrian zones. Xavier moves at 5 kilometers per h and is equipped with 360-degree cameras. When it detects a violation, it issues an appropriate warning to the offender and transmits real-time information to a human supervisor, who then coordinates and mobilizes law enforcement for further action. In addition, Singapore also deploys drones for monitoring and enforcing social distancing measures. Thank you for watching the entire video. Now, goodbye, and see you again in the next exciting content.